Would you please lead us in the flag?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Deanna, roll call, please.
Councilmember Glauser,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Stanfield,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent,
Here.
and Mayor Long.
Here. Any oral comments from the public from earlier in the day?
No.
Okay. Do you want to put our screen up for a minute for people to call in if they would so desire? We'll keep this pretty flexible in case you don't get in time. Sienna will let us know if somebody does call and we'll work you into the agenda so that you are able to comment. So while we have that up on the screen, I'll just read the consent calendar items. We have 13 of them, including city council minutes, all of our department monthly reports from administration, community development, finance, parks and rec, police department, public works, River Lodge report of disbursements, and then our supplemental budget request for transit bus repair, authorization of the city manager to sign a release of all property damage claims from Geico Casualty Company to receive a payment from a supplemental budget request for citywide striping and unsignalized intersection project, and a supplemental budget request for the Roner and Hillside Creek's letter of map revision. So seeing nobody from the public calling in, does anyone wish to pull any of the consent items?
I'd like to pull number 5, please.
Anyone else? All right, Jeremy.
I just wanted the public to be made aware of a pretty significant donation that was given to our parks. The Redwood Coast Mountain Biking Association and Wallen Construction have graciously offered to donate the materials and construction efforts to pave the Fortuna Bike Park and convert it into a permanent pump track. The design plans have been reviewed and approved by city staff. This improved park will offer more riding variations and options for all ages and skill levels. The improvements will be completed by the end of October, and then there'll be a ribbon cutting ceremony after completion. We'll be one of the only paved pump tracks in the state of California, and it'll have a better enhancement of recreational experiences for everybody that enjoys our parks. This isn't replacing the future of a skate park, but that's a conversation and a location on hopefully the area that we're going to annex in park expansion property later. And then also wanted to mention I just wanted to publicly thank Redwood Coast Mountain Biking Association and Wallen Construction. If you see they're one of those people around, please tell them thank you from the city of Fortuna. Also wanted to just highlight one thing that the Humboldt County Lodging Alliance has kindly offered to donate $25,000 for landscaping improvements at the River Lodge. The improvements will include new weed preventative measures, low maintenance, drought resistant native plantings, and new ground cover material. These improvements will include a year's worth of maintenance upon completion and a continued partnership with the Humboldt Lodging Alliance on the upkeep after the year of maintenance has lapsed. So a couple really big donations to our city, and I just wanted to give kudos to those partners.
Thank you for doing that, Jeremy. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. We accept the consent calendar items 1 through, what is this? 13, yes. A and B.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the consent calendar. Sienna?
Councilmember Glauser,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stanfield,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent,
Yes.
Mayor Long,
Yes. Okay, our city business, we have an award of professional contract for wastewater national pollutant discharge elimination system compliance project. Capital Improvement Project CIP 0171. Staff report, please.
Yeah, so before I hand this over to our deputy city engineer, who's going to be providing a short presentation staff report, I just want to say that this, the city staff have been working for a long time on the wastewater treatment plant and getting that plant to a point where it could be compliant with the anticipated regulations to come ahead. This might be one of the largest projects in city history with as far as dollars go. And so it's a very, very important project, and one that I think the public's going to be very interested in, as it has the potential to affect their rates. So we're very pleased to see some interest in the project, and we're confident that this project will provide a long-term solution to the city's wastewater compliance needs. So with that, I will hand it over to Brendan Bird, our deputy city engineer.
Thank you, Merritt. I'll go ahead and take over the screen now. Please let me know if you are seeing my screen.
We are seeing your screen.
Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, again, thank you very much, Merritt and Honorable Mayor and City Council. I'm very pleased to be here tonight to talk about the city's NPDES compliance project, as Merritt just mentioned, and specifically to present the staff report recommending award for the professional services agreement for engineering and permitting services for the project. I'd also like to take a quick moment to thank Merritt, all of our plant staff, and all of our consultants with GHD who have helped us bring this project to where it is today. And with that, I'll jump into my presentation here. So a brief outline of where I'm going to go with this, and hopefully this presentation isn't too long. First of all, I'll give a little bit of a outline of the wastewater treatment plant, and specifically some history of the projects at the plant, touch a little bit on the plant itself, talk about the current compliance issues we are facing and the regulatory timelines associated with that. I'll touch on the request for proposals that was recently released, and talk about the proposed project and cost implications, followed by staff recommendations, and then touch on project schedule. So treatment plants are often a result of generational projects, and Fortuna's is no different. It was built in 1950, and the city's wastewater treatment plant has undergone numerous expansion and upgrade projects since then, often driven by regulatory compliance issues. This has kind of created the facility that we have today. With our NPDES compliance project, we're about to embark on another chapter in the story of this plant. The city operates the Tom Cook Memorial Wastewater Treatment Plant, which is located just west of Highway 101 in Fortuna. Through the combination of projects shown on the previous slide, the plant is currently composed of the following general treatment systems. We have primary treatment, where larger solids and most of the easily removable waste is removed. We have a secondary treatment system, which removes much of the remaining organic matter left behind by the primary system. We currently have a chlorine disinfection system, which removes bacteria and viruses prior to being discharged to either Strong's Creek or our percolation ponds near the Eel River. In parallel with these operations, we have a solids handling system, which converts the solid waste that we removed from the effluent stream and turn it into compost. And lastly, we have a number of operations and maintenance buildings, plus our lab facility, which supports all operations that take place at the treatment plant. As noted, our current facility is designed to remove primarily organic matter, which is most of the waste present in wastewater and other large suspended solids. At present, our plant is not designed to remove other constituents such as nitrogen and phosphorus or other dissolved solids such as salts, metals, or pharmaceuticals. As many of us know, the city is currently facing compliance issues with the California Regional Board in regards to our summertime discharge location and our effluent quality. Specifically, the city is being compelled to undertake a project in order to install a new summertime discharge location that is not connected to surface water, and to add a treatment system at the wastewater treatment plant to remove nitrogen from the effluent stream. These improvements are required to be completed by the end of 2024. After receiving orders from the board in 2017, staff and our engineering consultants began the preliminary engineering and CEQA compliance phase of work, which has included a number of studies in identifying a project direction and demonstrates that our proposed approach would ultimately achieve the requirements of the regional board order. This work here shown above is now complete as of June of this year, and the city is now ready to undertake the next phase in project work, which is detailed engineering design, permitting, and project construction. To begin the next phase of work, staff developed and released a request for proposals for engineering design, permitting, and construction services for the NPDES compliance project. The RFP was released in early July and included the following work items: project management, peer review of previous work, permitting, funding assistance, performing a wastewater rate study, final engineering design, optional construction engineering, and optional landowner outreach. The submission deadline was August 26th, and the city received 2 proposals to complete the scope of services mentioned previously. A 5-member staff panel, including myself, City Manager Merritt Perry, Deputy Public Works Director Kevin Carter, Chief Plant Operator Chris Christensen, and Finance Director Aaron Felmley, reviewed and scored the proposals and conducted consultant interviews. After a comprehensive review process, the panel selected Jacobs Engineering to perform the remaining work on the city's wastewater upgrade project. Jacobs was selected for 2 key reasons. First, they are a #1 firm in the U.S. for delivering wastewater and directional drilling projects, both of which are very important in this particular project. And second, they have a proven track record of delivering these types of treatment plant projects in Northern California, and their references all had positive experiences working with this team specifically. We believe the Jacobs will do a great job helping the city deliver this project. After selecting Jacobs, city staff and Jacobs representatives have engaged in a number of meetings to finalize project scope. The work will include the base project items, including the engineering and permitting services for the nitrogen treatment system and new summertime discharge system. At this time, staff have elected to remove the optional construction engineering task, which will be contracted later in the design process, and the funding assistance task, which will be led in-house. Staff are also proposing to include 3 additional items to the project at the treatment plant, including flow equalization, UV disinfection, and a phosphorus removal system. So there are a number of reasons why staff are proposing to expand the scope of the treatment plant project. And I'll begin briefly with a little outline of why we feel these improvements are beneficial to our operations now and in the future. I'll begin with the automated flow equalization system, which in essence would use our existing pond storage to reduce peak winter flows from affecting our treatment plant's performance. By reducing peak flows, this improvement could also help to reduce the cost of other project components that are involved in this project, as many of these components would have to be sized based on peak flow capacity. If we could reduce the peak flows that come into the plant and treat them, say, when the rains go away or later at night, we can make improvements in the plant smaller and therefore less costly overall. Next is implementing ultraviolet disinfection in favor of our existing chlorine disinfection system. Implementing UV would eliminate the need to store and use dangerous chemicals at the treatment plant site, further reduce nitrogen in the effluent stream, which of course we are now being regulated on, and eliminate the potential for chlorine and disinfection byproduct related effluent violations. And lastly is a phosphorus removal system, which is a treatment upgrade, and it's kind of the elephant in the room for many treatment plants. Most people think it's the next big regulatory hurdle that will come down from the regional board on treatment plants such as our own. So a few extra reasons that we really think that these would be good things for the city to explore as part of this project. And these additional reasons include cost, design and permitting efficiencies, and extending the time until we'd potentially be required to undertake yet another large expansion project at the wastewater treatment plant. Large projects are very expensive, and they're only getting more expensive, generally by a factor of about 2 to 3% annually. If we implement the additional work items now, it'll likely be the cheapest that we can ever conduct this work. Additionally, with the current borrowing rates being at record lows, we can likely implement a project in the present for significantly cheaper than we could anytime, say, in the next 5 to 10 years, because rates may increase back to normal levels at that time. There are also opportunities for increased design efficiencies. If we undertake, at minimum, the design of these improvements now, we can ensure that we are thinking of the evolution of our plant in a holistic fashion moving forward, and ensure that we don't paint ourselves into a corner that is difficult to work with in the future if we elect to do these projects later. Also, performing large projects often results in financial efficiencies, as we'll already have a consultant contracted and we'll already have obtained permits to do the project work. Lastly, performing these additional upgrades now could help the city extend the timeline until our next major project, hopefully to at least 20 years or beyond. Although there are never any guarantees, and especially in the regulatory environment where, we can never be sure what will come down from the state as to what we have to deal with, we think that performing these improvements now is likely to make it so that we don't have to be back here again, planning another project and another rate increase anytime in the near future. Of course, all this has to cost money, right? Which is certainly one of the most important considerations with the project. As you'll see here, we've developed some budgetary estimates to complete both the base project, which includes only the nitrogen removal and disposal system components, and the project including all of the additional items of work. In the top row, you'll see that to move forward with the project design of the base, move forward with the design of the items now would likely add about $700,000 cost the initial project and the initial professional services agreement with Jacobs. If the city elects to take the full project to construction, including the additions, the project is anticipated to cost approximately $25 million, compared to about $18 million for the base project alone. This equates to a rate increase on average to our customers of somewhere between $4.50 and $8.40 per connection per month, depending on the project we select to construct. I'll note here that these increases only represent the required cost to cover project debt services and not to cover increased operations cost or other capital improvement costs involved with doing other projects. With this in mind, although rate increases are never fun or popular, I'd like to take a quick step backward and review a slide from an Arcata City Council meeting earlier this year. As shown with Fortuna right here on the far left, the city currently delivers water and sewer services to our ratepayers at the lowest cost in the county. It is our intent that with this project, wherein we address current and potentially future regulatory drivers, that we can continue to operate as one of the most cost-effective municipal service providers in the county. Even with the cost of performing the larger construction project, as noted before, Fortuna would still likely be approximately $20 below the county average for water and sewer services on a monthly level. With this in mind, I'd like to recommend that the council authorize the city manager to negotiate a professional services contract with Jacobs for engineering and permitting services for an amount not to exceed $3 million. This would allow, at a minimum, staff to proceed with both the project components required by the regional board orders and also proceed with at least the design of the additional items noted previously. Staff proposed that during the design process that we further evaluate the cost of constructing the additional items prior to making a final determination on if they'll be included in the final construction project. With that, I'll move on to the anticipated schedule remaining between us here tonight and beginning construction on the project. Pending approval on this contract from this evening, staff are proposing to finalize negotiations at the end of this month and ultimately issue the notice to proceed by the end of October. We'll work to finalize our funding plan in June of 2021, followed shortly thereafter by obtaining our project permits in late summer. We'll work to finalize our engineering design in early 2022, which could allow us to bid and build the project as early as 2022, which is approximately 2 years ahead of our deadline. The schedule is aggressive, however, it provides us a lot of flexibility in case certain items take longer than anticipated. This concludes my staff report presentation. I'd like to thank everyone for their attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Does anyone have any questions for Brendan?
I have some.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned borrowing and interest rates being all-time low. I thought this was coming out of CIP money. We're not borrowing to do this project, are we?
This project is quite a large project, as you saw. You know, even in the smaller one, it's probably about $18 million. The funding plan for this project would be a combination of city capital reserve funds, which I believe we have approximately $10 million currently in that fund. Also, some grants from the regional board, which could total about $5.5 million, which there's a shortfall there already, but we also don't want to spend all of our reserve funds. You know, we'd like to maintain a little bit of a cushion if we need to do some other projects. So we have to make up the shortfall with low interest loans through the Clean Water SRF through the state board. Right now, for disadvantaged communities such as Fortuna, those are interest rates of at about 1.3%, 30-year loan. Typically, they're around 2 to 2.2%. But right now, with the economic situation that we're in and will likely be in for the foreseeable future, interest rates are pretty competitive right now. So in either event, to answer your question, Jeremy, yes, we will have to find a third funding source, and the most likely candidate is low interest loan.
Okay.
Councilmember
So,
Anfield, I might just add too that, one of the first steps we're going to be doing is a peer review, a second look at the cost estimates, kind of to get a second set of eyes on those cost estimates. And then again, part of the scope of work included is a funding plan. So, as Brendan said, yes, we will exceed the amount that we can pay for, and there will be some level of grants and borrowing. We don't know what that exact mix is yet till we have the project costs identified.
and I would assume that your rate increases proposed are including the interest payments?
What Brendan put up there is simply how the cost of construction of the project with those estimates between 18 and $24 million, how those alone would impact rates. It doesn't include what the increase of operations are, doesn't include any consumer price index, it doesn't include any other things that would be there. That's merely to tell the council that, look, construction of this project alone is likely going to warrant a rate increase. How much will depend on how much reserve we receive, how much grant we receive. And again, that'll be something that will be coming back to council. That's not something that's going to be affected by this decision, but something that we'll know as we gain more project definition.
So when is the proposed increase being considered? I mean, after 2024 or prior to?
We would love to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That would happen during the design. So we'll be planning ahead. So it won't be after it's constructed. It would happen during the course of the project. We'd bring a rate study to council, and the council would be able to decide what they want to do.
And with this new plan, this is the ones going across the river?
That's right. So it includes upgrades to the treatment plant. Upgrades to the secondary treatment to provide nitrogen and phosphorus removal, as well as a directional bore under the river to a new disposal site to a piece of property that the council has been considering for purchase.
And will that increase capacity for hookups for future development?
There will be the potential. So we will be planning for the city's anticipated growth in the future, yes. But the main purpose of the project is not capacity increasing. The main purpose of the project is to address the regulatory requirements that are in front of us now. So essentially, if we don't do this, the regional board could take drastic action and could do something like a building moratorium. And we don't want to let it get to that point. What we want to do is stay ahead of the regulations and not give them a reason. So right now, that's where we're at. We're on schedule for what we need to do to stay in compliance and not have any type of action from the regional board.
Okay. On page 28 of Jacob's proposal, it says over $4 million. How did we get it down to 3?
So we're just asking for authorization right now of up to $3 million. We don't want to award to construction management. We aren't going to award all of the funding items. And so we want to wait and get better project definition. And we only want to authorize the scope items up through the design tasks right now. And Brendan can give you more detail on specifically what we're asking for authorization, but we want to wait on some of the items and only authorize through design at this point.
That's exactly right, Merritt. And just to expand upon that, Jeremy, the scope that was included in the staff report is a draft at this time, with kind of the approval of of the ability to negotiate a not to exceed contract, there's still some items that would need to be ironed out, and the final scope would still need to be made to be reflective of a price not to exceed.
So the 3 million is adequate for your Cadillac version of the upgrades?
Correct.
Okay.
The public needs to understand the fact that the last 4 years, there's been a push and nudge, much to our duress, to be more aware of what goes into the river. And it's not as though we're just flinging it off the cuff to do this and actually charge more for rate increases. It is something that we are obligated by the state to follow through on. And I know Brendan, it's like anything, it can change, and the women fancy of the people that are on the board, and they can make us jump through more hoops down the road, but you have to have high expectation that the increases that you do and the enhancements that you do are compliant for a long time, with your fingers crossed.
Councilmember Glazer, I would just add that, the reason we put the rates up there, we put what our current rates are, is when we look at all these improvements at the treatment plant, that's what we have in mind. We want to keep the lowest rates and provide the longest term solution. So, putting that in there is how we're thinking it. What are we doing now is going to affect rates into the future. And I think one of the reasons the city's been able to maintain low rates is, they've invested in their infrastructure and it's lasted a long time. We actually had some of the other cities in Arcata that did that study, said, how are you able to keep your rates so low? And, I think the city made wise decisions in the treatment plant that was constructed some time ago. The city has ran for a long time. The compost operation, the solids handling, a number of things the city has done has created good long-term value. And so I think, that's our only real answer, is the plant we built lasted for a long time. It's been compliant for a long time. Now we're forced into some new things, and we want to be in that position 10, 20 years from now that somebody says, how come you haven't had to adjust rates for a long time? I'm going to say we have a plant that's been, up and running, and we haven't had to continuously do things and make more improvements.
When we did the sewer and water rates in the enhancement of our sewer treatment plant, we were the big bad meanie in the county with the highest rates. And people were always barking, saying that this outrageous. But in the meantime, as the years went by, the other agencies, you use Rio Dell as a perfect example, because of the cost that they're going to have to charge their residents for hookups in sewer, were just sky high. And Eureka was the same basis. It turned to be sky high. So we sat with this low rate. And in the meantime, the political hot potato was that nobody wanted to do rate increases. So it flatlined, and it's been flatlining ever since. So it's sort of a coincidence with small reluctance to do rate increases. We could actually be probably middle of that chart, but still we have low rates. And we've known for quite a while that the water quality people were going to come down on our shoulders if we didn't comply and play by their rules and have extensions and show that we're doing the paperwork and that we're doing the studies and doing everything that's proper. So yeah, so I hope the public understands where we're coming from, that we are following the letter of the law, so we don't have $20,000 fines a day by the Friends of the Eel River. And we stay within the boundaries of what they want, and we play by all their rules.
Do you have a plan for the rate study, or is that getting too far ahead?
Well, that'll be included in the project. Right now, it's part of their scope of work to complete a rate study. We're considering options, whether that's one item that we're looking at. Should city staff take that and maybe pull that out of this contract and let this consultant focus more on the design work and do the rate study, maybe working with another consultant or include it in their scope of work. So that's something that will come as part of this project. And we're going to want to look at the funding plan and look at the additive components. That's something that we'll be leaning on the council. It's hard to say, like one of the items Brennan brought up was phosphorus removal. We need to think about, do we want to, at this point, we think it's prudent to plan for that. What would it look like? Where would it go? But maybe it's not prudent to actually construct it at this point, until we see the regulations actually come. So what we're trying to do is look as far as we can in the future. And then items like that, bring them back to the council and really kind of have a discussion about how each component would affect rates and what do we want to include in the project. So there's a bit of, if you look at the scope of work that's attached to the staff report, there's a considerable amount that goes into project definition, and that's where we're going to be answering some of those questions. And we'll be able to make some decisions of what do we want to include in design, how much will it cost, and then make our decision and move forward and understand what the rates will be as an impact, what the impact of rates would be when we make those decisions.
So is it fair to say that what we spend on this project is what we'll avoid in fines?
I don't think if we were just trying to avoid fines, we could probably find, another way to do it. But, they've given us a compliance schedule in our permit that really doesn't give us any latitude. It says you shall upgrade your plant to remove nitrogen. And then the time schedule order that they've given us, which isn't part of our permit, says you will find another place to put your wastewater besides those perk bonds. So it's being mandated. We have absolutely no choice. I mean, we could drag our feet, but it likely would result in fines, and it would take, it would probably include action from the regional board to, if they found the city not compliant with their permit, then they would take action to make sure we are in compliance. And right now we're kind of charting our future. We're moving ahead and we're planning it ourselves. And, it is forced. This isn't something we're choosing to do, but it's more of a requirement.
I got 2 more questions. Is that okay?
Please shoot.
So when it goes across the river, that pipe, is it rated for a certain life expectancy? Number 1. And is there 2 pipes, like one to send it over there and one to bring it back for treatment?
All the wastewater will be treated at the treatment plant. The pipeline that's proposed to go underneath the Eel River will never see untreated wastewater. It'll all be treated wastewater. So suitable for reuse. The same water that we discharge to the Eel River in the winter time would be going to a disposal field. And when we say disposal, it's more like a groundwater recharge. It's treated wastewater that would be discharged into groundwater. So the same stuff that goes in the river, same water, but a higher water quality.
So last question for me, and it's kind of funny but serious. Is this going to help us with it not being smelly when you drive past the freeway?
That probably will not affect the treatment plant smell. So I think that's one of our processes, and right now that's not proposed to change that I'm aware of.
Although I'd like to note that we are currently in the middle of a maintenance project, which over the last few months has increased that odor, and hopefully that'll wrap up soon to your happiness there, Jeremy.
Thank you. Trying to bring businesses here.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Merritt or Brendan?
I was going to say, once we get the design underway and finalized, we will have a better idea of what our construction cost will be, because we'll have something that we can actually physically look at. And as far as the phosphorus removal, what we build today may be technologically obsolete in 5 years. So we need to look at that also. So your idea of maybe not building it could be a good thing, because it may not meet the requirements in a few years. So, but I know that we have put a lot of time and effort into looking for and at alternatives over the last 6 years probably, before we came to this point. So this is, as Dean said, this is not something that we just jumped on and undertook. It's been a long process and a back and forth with the Regional Water Quality Control Board before we got to this place. So
I would just add that the city looked at a complete range of alternatives, from disposal sites in Fortuna to disposal sites, within a 5-mile radius. We looked at water reuse. We kind of looked at the world, and of options, and we've narrowed it down to a treatment option and a disposal option. So even though we're just starting design, or we have a preliminary design only, we really have made significant progress and come a long way. And so one of the reasons too, we're not asking for a budget request right now, is that the work that we expect to complete this year is within the budget that was allocated for the capital improvement project.
I do have another one.
Just a second, Jeremy. Christiana, would you put the public comment information on the screen while we continue discussing this and see if anyone calls in? Go ahead, Jeremy.
So One of my very first field trips as a council person was to Ukiah for that Purple Pride project. We don't have enough. I mean, they were watering vineyards, which needs a ton of water. We don't have anything needs like that, so we're not considering something like that.
No, one of the biggest differences that we have is we have abundant groundwater, and if you look at most of the agriculture, it's across the river in Ferndale, and there's a pretty large, that groundwater resource. We haven't been seeing a depletion of that, and you can essentially pump groundwater for free without having to put all the piping and everything else in. And also in the past, a lot of the dairy farmers have wanted to maintain organic. You can use wastewater for organic, but I think a lot of the dairy ranchers have not wanted to consider the option of wastewater. So we don't have anybody signing up to take it. If that changes in the future, we'll have a pipeline, and we'll be happy to figure out who's interested in other reuses of that.
Anyone else have questions? Did we get anyone calling in, Sienna?
No, we did not.
Okay, let's close public comment. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'm going to jump right in here. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to approve a professional services contract with Jacobs to provide engineering and environmental services for the city of Fortuna's wastewater NPDES compliant project, capital improvement project 0171, for a total contract not to exceed an amount of $3 million.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Sienna?
Councilmember Glosser,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stanfield,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. All right. And you even came in under your 65 minutes, Brendan.
I'm here to please.
All right, our next item is League of California Cities in favor of Proposition 20, Resolution 2020-37. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor Long. Our police chief put this together, but I'll be providing the staff report. The recommendation is that the council adopt Resolution 2020-37 supporting California's Prop 20. Under current law, many violent crimes in California that impact our communities, such as domestic violence, date rape, sex trafficking of children, and assault with a deadly weapon, are considered nonviolent offenses. This means that thousands of offenders who have been convicted of these violent crimes are eligible for early prison release without serving their full sentences without warning to their victims. In addition, habitual retail theft is affecting small businesses in our communities. Theft has increased by 12 to 25% statewide, with losses of more than $10 billion and counting since the passage of Prop 47 4 years ago. This puts a strain on the already decreased local sales tax revenue related to the COVID-19 emergency. In 2016, Prop 47 reduced theft under 950 to a simple misdemeanor, allowing offenders to steal repeatedly with virtually no consequence, provided each theft is below the $950 threshold. Prop 20 addresses two urgent and costly issues facing California cities: rising violent crime and an increase in retail theft. Prop 20 reclassifies violent some heinous crimes currently categorized as nonviolent to ensure those convicted of these crimes serve their full sentences. Prop 20 creates two additional categories of punishable crimes with increased penalties to address serial theft and organized retail theft, crimes that deeply affect our already struggling small businesses and residents. Prop 20 is endorsed by the League of California City. They provided the draft resolution that we've adapted to the city of Fortuna. And, I think, so that concludes my staff report, and I can answer any questions, as well as our police chief, Casey Day.
Sienna, can you put our public comment information on the screen while we do our questions? Does anyone have
Give
questions?
my time to Tammy.
Does anyone have questions for Chief Day or Merritt?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. This is the bill that I've been talking about over the last year or so. This is one that the committee, the Public Safety Committee that I'm on out of Sacramento, has been working on. It was sponsored by the Chief Police Association and the Grocers Association. I think it's an excellent bill. It's gone through a lot of changes through working through this, but I think it's a definite step in a positive direction to help get some more crime off the street and criminals off the street. So I think this is an extremely important bill, and I am so glad that we are endorsing this.
Anyone else, comments or questions?
I was going to say, I have a comment on the original Prop 47 when it was passed by the legislature, who actually were involved in it. But when it was passed, it was rushed through when it was written. And not only did a lot of these other violent crimes go through, but for a short time, it even made the theft of a firearm a misdemeanor, which it took a few months for the legislature to correct that. So that's just an example of how the original bill was cobbled together and brought through to the voters, and just this corrects some of that poor language.
Anyone else? Do we have any calls from the public, Sienna?
Oh, no, I have not seen anybody come on to this meeting.
All right, we'll close public comment. Does someone want to make a motion?
I do. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-37 and read by title only.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Sienna?
Resolution 2020-37, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fortuna supporting California's Proposition 20 on the November 2020 ballot. Councilmember Glauser,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stanfield,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. All right, thank you. Next, we have our city manager's report.
Make sure I'm off mute. I'd briefly like to just touch on our upcoming meeting schedule. On November 2nd at 6 o'clock p.m. is our next regular city council meeting. October 27th at 6 p.m. is our next regular planning commission. Our next Measure E meeting is not until December 15th. And then our next Roanoke Community Recreation and Park District meeting is on November 4th. Just a few items for my report tonight. I was really pleased that our Parks Department was able to reopen our playgrounds. The county issued revised guidance and allowed the reopening of the playgrounds, and the park seems like a completely different place seeing those playgrounds open. And so I was really glad and appreciate our Parks Department ability to reopen those playgrounds within the city. Again, I'd like to echo the comments from Councilmember Stanfield about the donation from the Humboldt Lodging Alliance for the River Lodge landscaping. They've been a great partner down there and consistently supported projects within the River Lodge. This is the second one they've done. The most recent one they've done before this was the new audio in the River Lodge, and now to put in the landscaping. It's nice to have the partnership with them, and also to see that they understand the value of keeping the River Lodge as an attractive venue for its users. Just a quick update on the Jameson Creek. A lot of people want to know when Ronerville Road's going to be open. We expect to have the backfilling is currently underway right now. We expect to have the final paving, striping, and guardrail fencing removed and construction of the pavement replaced the first week of November. So that most of the construction should be done at the end of October, but again, the paving, concrete work, first week in November. So we are still on schedule. If you have any other questions about that, Brendan's here and he's managing that project. He can answer those. So with that, concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Merritt. Any future agenda items? So we have a member of the public on the phone. Do you want to say something? You can raise your hand by hitting a button over to the right of your screen. There's a little participants, and I think you can raise your hand. Is that where it is, Sienna?
Or if you're on your phone, hit *9 and it'll raise your hand. And the number is 298-4909. And you don't have to comment if you don't want to. We're just checking to see if you did have a public comment.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Future agenda items. Anyone? Okay, that's easy. City Council reports. Dean.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. the upcoming election for Fortuna has Measure G. That's G as in Glauser, so you're not going to forget. Measure G is an extension of the sunset date of the fundraising 3/4 cent Measure E that was started 5 years ago. The intent for this is to allow the city to continue to have the 3/4 cent and the sales tax, and to allow the city to continue to recover on a positive level and continue on the same level of prosperity that we had prior to the COVID pandemic. So please vote yes. As was mentioned in the past by Tammy, that it is only $75 for every 100. Is that what it is, Tammy? For every $100?
75.
Okay, I'll let you follow up on that. But it's still, we initially, a lot of people had negative comments about that, but we have become so accustomed to that. Please just assume that it is going for good causes, and we do have an e-committee that validates it and verifies everything is open. So please vote yes on G. The last meeting I mentioned that all of the propositions should be voted as no, but tonight we have isolated Proposition 20 for its good use and purpose. All the other propositions, please vote no. I have a Redwood Coast Energy Authority meeting this Thursday at 3:30, so I'll be able to report on that. I had heard that Dr. Frankovich from the Department of Health and Human Services was going to let all the cities know by zip code what their infection numbers were. So I guess I have to ask Merritt, has she made any effort to provide that to our city?
I did see some numbers reported in the press, but I haven't received anything directly, but certainly something that I can check on.
Yeah, I'm going to take her for her word. She said it live, and I would hope that she was going to fulfill her promise that all the cities know, rather than north, central, and southern, that what your infection numbers are, that we know whether we're doing a good job or generically just add it into the numbers. I want to know, please. Last but not least, I always say, God bless America. God bless our troops. God bless all the people that have been going through this shutdown. And as I've stated prior, we need to get back to where we were in that very early part of this year. Let us have our lives back. Let her have our businesses back. Let her have our prosperity return in a positive note. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. Jeremy, or sorry, Mike.
Well, I've, as a member of HCOG, we had our first Regional Transportation Plan Ad Hoc Committee goal setting and metrics meeting a couple of weeks ago, Friday. And this coming Friday, we have our second one. And that is setting goals for transportation, setting metrics and measures, so we have measurable goals, as well as mass transit, automobile use, climate, and a variety of items that are part of our future as well as today. And so we're starting our second meeting this coming Friday. Also, I have spent some of my volunteer time as a member of the Measure G committee and knocking on doors and blanketing the town and getting my steps in every day, it seems like. And due to the fact that a lot of people have already started voting and have already voted, we're not going to be doing that much anymore, but we do have some advertising out, educating listeners as to what's going on and what their funds are used for. And we had an awesome drive-in movie fundraiser this past Saturday evening, which was pulled off had some magnificent planning taken care of by one of our committee members, Tina Taylor. She didn't have time to work on hops this year, so she did a drive-in movie instead. So, and we appreciate very much her efforts on that. And we don't have a regular HCOG meeting, so we look forward to November for that. Looking forward to the museum. I have something that I found that I want to take over there and donate, see if Alex is interested. And with that, oh, by the way, Dean, that was 75 cents per 100. So much better.
I was hoping for somebody to correct me because I don't want to have somebody misunderstand. Thank you very much, Mike.
But, and with that, I'll turn it over to Jeremy.
All right.
Mayor, could I just
Yes.
wanted to respond to one question, if that would be okay.
Yes.
There is a dashboard up at the county website that lists the number of coronavirus positive COVID tests by zip code, and they list Fortuna, and that case count so far is 48.
Ooh,
I'll send the link to the council members.
thank you.
Thank you, Merritt. Jeremy?
Let's see. FBID was supposed to happen tomorrow, but it got moved by a week because they're having a big launch of their new website, and they're finishing up the details of a big launch for a marketing campaign that they've been working on. They got a sizable grant from the Humboldt Lodging Alliance, and they've been doing some, let's call it reconnaissance work with photos for their new website and different projects that they're working on. So it was better to postpone it to the following Tuesday, the 27th. So I'll be at FBID next Tuesday. Want to congratulate our Mayor Pro Tem for, I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder or if you were going to mention it, but proud that she's representing the Redwood division for the League of California Cities as the second vice president. So congratulations for that. Attended her installment the other day via Zoom. Merritt, I was going to ask you a quick question with regards to the parks. I already spoke about the parks in the consent agenda, but did it include basketball hoops going back up?
I will have to check on that. I know that it's changing day by day. And so I think, I know that Cameron Mull, our parks director, has been following that. I know one of the things he's waiting for guidance from the state is roller skating, but I don't remember what he said about basketball. But I don't know that there's plans for that yet, but I will check.
Okay. Yeah, that outdoor court, I was kind of like, oh, bummer when that came down. So
They're back up. I drove through there the other day.
Oh, good.
Right.
And then, yeah, just wanted to, I did have a Parks and Rec committee meeting via Zoom with a new commissioner, Sherry Jewett. That was her first meeting. So we welcomed Sherry, and we had full participation there. And let's see, anything else going on? I think that's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Tammy?
Okay, first of all, I want to say I watched the Coffee with the Chief this morning. Chief, you did another good program. It's nice to hear from your staff, different people in your staff and different things going on. I was happy to hear from Enoch. He's such an asset to our police department. And Tanya gave a good presentation on dispatch. It's nice for people to be educated a little bit, on how the department works, different parts of the department, different positions within the department. So I thought it was real interesting. Thank you for putting that variety in there. And then I also wanted to give another plug in for Measure G, as in good, not glazier, good. It is good. Mayor Long and I have been walking the streets quite a few weekends, quite a few hours, letting people know about it, passing out flyers along with Mike also. Let's see. So thank you, Mike Johnson, for doing that also. We've had also a few community volunteers who've done a lot of work and put a lot of hours in that. We're getting pretty positive responses, so I'm hoping that's the way it's going to go. And I actually wasn't going to say anything about the Redwood Empire, but thank you, Jeremy. I was sworn in as second vice president for the League of California Cities Redwood Empire Division. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to actually being able to have in-person meetings again and being able to meet with the other cities. A big part of our meetings is the networking between all of our local cities, and I really enjoy that. It's an important part of all of this, so I'm looking forward to that getting back. And I think that's all I have to my report. So back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Tammy. So you guys covered most of the stuff that I was going to say. So when you get to go last, you don't have to say as much stuff. Please watch for Measure G posts on Facebook. Please share them. Charles is working on boosting them. So some people have voted, but we need 50% plus one. So even if 50% of our voters have voted, it's still worth getting out there and passing out flyers because we still need 50%. So some people have let me know they voted yes, and some people have said we voted and they don't share that information. So it's hard to know. Out of all the houses we've hit, only had about 2 door slammers. So that was pretty good. So that makes me think it's pretty positive. So Tina Taylor rocks. If you guys have ever worked with Tina on a committee, she is amazing. And she took on this drive-in fundraiser and knocked it out of the park. We made enough money to pay all of our Measure G bills, including the brochures, the advertising, the signs, and anything else that we've spent money on. So I have a REDAC executive meeting on Thursday, and that's the only meeting I have coming up so far. And please, everybody share the Measure G post and talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. We really need this to pass. So with that, we have closed session tonight, public employment pursuant to section 54957 of the California Government Code. The title is a city manager. Would somebody make a motion to adjourn the closed
I'll
session?
make a motion to move to closed session.
I'll second it.
Mike, you were off.
What
So
can
Tam-
Yes, I'll take a motion. Second the motion. We need to go to closed session immediately.
So Tammy motion, Jeremy second, Sienna.
Got it. Councilmember Glauser,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Stanfield,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Trent,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. All right, so we'll give you guys a couple